Hi there, everyone. It's Lana. Happy Saturday. So, how do you discern when you're coming from the head or when you're coming from the heart? And the question lies within. Only we know if we ask ourselves the question: do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? Or do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And realistically, rarely does a person want to admit that they want to be right. But it's the ego, and that ego's got a point to prove. So it jumps in and says, I know better. This is the truth. When in reality, it could be just something simple where you just step back and go, my heart feels compassion in this situation, and I really want to see the harmony, the connection with this other individual or the situation, and you choose your battles. So if you're the type of person who is in constant conflict within yourself, you're going to choose that battle with the ego. Ego's going to go crazy and jump out there and go, ooh, goody, another one to go jump on. Great example, unfortunately, our political situation. If you're an arguer, you're a person who got a point to prove, you're coming from the ego. You're coming from the head. There's no heart involved in that, I'm sorry. Even if you get emotionally involved, that is not your heart, because the heart doesn't work through that emotion. Reaction comes from the mind. It's the attachment to these ideals that you have that creates your suffering. When we become emotionally involved in something, we are not in a rational state. And when you become irrational, you become unreasonable. You're coming from emotion. And when you can come back to the breath again and the mindfulness and the awareness of where you are and sit back with whatever it is that rises within you on an emotional level, which is the mind, which is bringing you back to a memory that's being triggered, and you can sit there and go, okay, now what exactly is this bringing up for me? Even journaling, this really helps. If you can sit down and write about it, you'd be surprised the things that unravel through your writing. You could find that it's something as simple as, wow, this morning I woke up and something triggered a memory, or I was running out the door and I was rushed, so everything got sped up. And so everything from that point on forward is going to be a similar reenactment of whatever the original trigger was. And only we know for ourselves, because we have to sit there and figure out. Nobody can tell us what it was. So the question is, do you come from your heart or your head? See, interestingly enough, I could tell you that all of my life, I was such a good person. That's my ego speaking, by the way. My ego is real good to butter me up and remind me that you're such a good person, but there are all these people who just didn't appreciate you. They didn't give you recognition, they didn't reciprocate your actions, they weren't on the same level. It wasn't you, it was them. But you know what? It all starts with us. Nobody ever does anything to us. We either create it through our expectation of what we want something or someone to do for us, or we are actually having that attachment to the way things we want them to be. So here I was with this buttered up brain of, I was such a good person and it's not my fault, because there's a subtle programming in our society that says if you do good, good will be done to you in return. I mean, the golden rule, I was raised Catholic, do unto others as you want done unto yourself. And I do believe that is actually more of a humane belief, that from an innate, really just simple level, if we show love, we receive love. But we have to detach from the expectation of how we receive things, how we perceive them, how the people will reciprocate, because we're all coming from different experiences and paths. We can never know where another person is coming from. We can compare stories, we can compare our lives, but all that is going back to the past. And there's no way you can take two people's lives. There's not two people who have ever experienced the exact same things in their life. Similar, and that's how we connect with people, but never ever the same. Never the same perceptions, belief systems, raising in the life, in the family. And that's what makes us all so unique and able to share so much wisdom through our own personal experiences. So of course I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong. I was just angry that I wasn't getting recognition and reciprocated with appreciation or love. Because the underlying root cause of my suffering, thinking I was doing such good for the world, was that I wasn't feeling loved in return. It was my expectation that if I did good for someone or something, that they should reciprocate and show me in a way that I felt would make me feel loved, appreciated, recognized. And when I didn't receive that, I suffered. I got upset. I was unhappy. I was dependent upon the response that I got from others. And when I didn't get it, I created this constant need to feel loved. And it's so simple, and that's such a small example of how many of us suffer in this life. I can tell you now, looking back, the problem was I didn't learn the lesson knowing that I was attached to the expectations of what should happen. Like, for example, if I gave a gift, even just a simple thank you, I expected that. And if I didn't get that, it was almost like, well, they didn't even say good, thank you or whatever. Or anything on a level where you give. When you give with an expectation of something in return, you're not giving from your heart. You're coming from your mind, because the mind wants validation. The mind wants something in return for its efforts. Remember, the mind is the one that's here to make, wants to survive. It's that fight or flight, but yet it's created this bigger monster. And the ego wants to feel important. Oh, come on now. I just did this wonderful thing for you. You have to do something in return to show me that you acknowledge it and recognize it. So it's something so simple that it's a choice in how we respond in situations, whether we come from the heart or whether we come from the ego mind in the head. And the best thing you can do is sit there and just detach from anything you do, because once you're attached, you're stuck in the head. When it comes from the heart, it feels good. There's nothing attached. It's lighter. Physically, emotionally, mentally, you're lighter. And just to see the joy in the person and however they express it, because you don't know how a person's going to show their own form of recognition and thanks. And even if they don't, do it because it felt good just to do it. Because doesn't it feel good to give? And if you can't give, then you're never going to be able to receive. Because the reciprocity is that when you give, you're actually receiving in return. And that's the heart. The ego doesn't understand that full process. The ego sees something else to solve. It sees something to reach out and attack, or to look for maybe the worst case scenarios. That's what the illusion is the mind going off on that train. And we need to get off that choo-choo train, because it isn't working for us, is it? So, for this day, I hope you live in joy. Focus on your joy. Live in joy. Don't even bother going to the other side of the house, because when we're swinging on the pendulum, doesn't it feel better to just kind of swing in a happy manner than to have like some crooked thing going on? Anyway, So, like I said, have a wonderful, blessed day. Love you all. Bye.